Get this, if you haven't heard this, you're not going to believe this story. A T-ball coach in North Union, Pennsylvania, allegedly offered to pay one of his 7-year-old players $25 to intentionally hurt a mentally disabled child so that kid wouldn't be able to play in the game and hurt the team's chances of winning. NBC's Mike Taibbi has the story.
The headlines are shocking that a Little League T-ball coach in suburban Pittsburgh paid one of his players to intentionally injure another one, a teammate with autism, to improve the team's winning chances.
The child was warming up with another player and got hit in the head pretty hard with a baseball.
T-ball is Little League's low-impact minor league, the first step in organized ball for the smallest and youngest kids. The alleged victim in this case is 8, and it was a 7-year-old who reportedly blew the whistle on his coach, Mark Reed Downs.
The coach had approached him, asking him to hit the boy in the face with the baseball, and he would give him $25.
The coach faces charges of criminal solicitation and assault. He's denied the allegations.
Surely he wouldn't want to do it just to be vindictive towards the child. I mean, it had to be because he wanted to win.
But the idea that even at this level, winning can be that important has been raised once again. Mike Taibbi, NBC News, New York.
Boy, thank you, Mike. I tell you what, that really is, that is about as disgusting, especially when you consider that this child was mentally disabled. With me now to talk about this troubling story are Ellis Cannon. He's a Pittsburgh radio talk show host. He's also the publisher of the Pittsburgh Sports Report. And also we have Dr. Andrew Jacobs, a sports psychologist in Kansas City. Dr. Jacobs, let's start with you. Has it really gotten that bad in Little League baseball and sports that you now have 7-year-old kids that are taking out mentally disabled children to help the team win?
Yes, it has. You know, winning is all out of perspective now. It's all about being number one. And youth sports, Little League, T-ball should be about having fun, enjoying yourself, and having fun with your teammates and just the experience. We have too many coaches, too many parents who want to live vicariously through their kids. And
these kids are 7 years old. They're 7 years old, man. And what? Some dad's trying to relive his glory days because things didn't go well in high school, and so you know, telling these kids to being a disabled kid.
You know, it's happening more and more often because people are seeing, hey, you know, if my son does really well, he might get a scholarship to college. And gosh, you know, maybe he can make it in the major leagues. We're seeing all kinds of venues being set up in cities all over the country to help kids get better in sports. There are all kinds of different avenues for these kids to get better. And the parents are getting hooked in that to the point that they're so focused on winning, they're not caught up in the fun of the game anymore.
You know, Ellis, I saw Real Sports, Brian Gemmell report on Real Sports about this very thing, about kids who are starting to get trained at 7, 8, 9 years old, throwing up their arms at 10 and 11 because their parents are pushing them so hard. You think that may have been the case here if, in fact, these allegations end up being the truth?
Well, they could be, again, if in fact they're going to be true. I talked to people here in the medical community just in the last 2 or 3 weeks, and they tell me, Joe, that in fact there are kids that are coming in with these types of injuries, shoulder and arm injuries, and, you know, we were coming up, I don't remember quite like that. I actually disagree a little bit with the doctor. I truly believe that, you know, the T-ball process is about having fun. It's about introducing kids to sports and to teams and to team sports and ultimately to competition. I think that there is an evolution in all that, and learning the fundamentals is perhaps the most important part. Socializing, which the mother of the alleged victim here says was an important factor in her getting her son involved. Those are all legitimate factors, and ultimately they do get to a case, whether you guys want to accept it or anybody else does, that by 9 years old in Little League, we're going to start keeping score. And there's nothing wrong with keeping score in that world, in my estimation. There is a balance you can reach.
Listen, Ellis, I'll tell you what, I don't think there's anything wrong with keeping score when they're 5 years old. In fact, I don't want my kids playing in leagues where they don't keep score. I like there to be winners.
My kids are in that same environment.
I like there to be winners. I like there to be losers. But when you get mentally disabled kids taken out with a beanball. Obviously, that's out of control. Well, tell me, what's been the climate on the Pittsburgh talk show stations where this happened? I mean, people pretty outraged by it?
Oh, I can tell you on my program, there's been a big mix, and yeah, there's an emotional end. You know, there's three parts of your brain at work here. There's the human, the parental part, and then you have the attorney, at least in me, that looks at this as, well, defensible anything is, I suppose, whereas a parent doesn't think that this would be defensible. And then ultimately you have a talk show, and that reaches the emotional component. And Joe, there's a lot of emotion out there, and certainly tonight there was emotion with people reacting, and a lot of that, as you just put it at the outset, over the weekend, with people reacting emotionally. Tonight I noticed some people were pulling back, saying, wait a second, there is a process here. This is one of those stories that's so incredible that either it can't be believed, or if it is to be believed, it's a very, very sickening thing, and it is ultimately indefensible. But the people have been very emotional.
And Andrew,
Joe, can I say something about
yeah, go ahead.
About the winning and losing. I disagree with you about winning and losing at 5. I think kids need to learn to have fun. We've gotten to the point in our society now where everything's organized. I know when I was growing up, after school, my friends and I would go up to the grade school, we'd play baseball, we'd play basketball, we'd play football. We didn't have organized practices. We didn't have parents and coaches watching over us. We were able to just go play. And I think one of the problems we've got today with youth sports is everything's organized, everything's controlled, and everything's written down. We don't give kids enough opportunity anymore to just go play and enjoy themselves. And that's something we need to look at in our society.
I agree with you on
you're
that,
exactly right, Andrew. Unfortunately, we got to go. But Ellis and Andrew, I'm going to ask you back because this case obviously being heard in court next week. Want to invite both of you back to talk about it then. Thanks for being